Chapter 13. Through the Gray. The harness fit poorly. It was designed for someone broader in the shoulders, and the chest strap crossed at the wrong angle, pressing against his collarbone when he moved. Rowan adjusted it twice, then stopped adjusting and accepted the discomfort. The harness was not meant to be comfortable. It was meant to keep him attached to the platform if the wind shifted or the cable lurched or his body decided that 12 kilometers of open air was not a place it wished to be. Marcus helped him with the oxygen mask, fitting the seal around his nose and mouth, checking the connection to the cylinder mounted in a bracket at the platform's edge. The mask smelled of rubber and the faint chemical tang of the scrubbing compound that filtered the air. Breathing through it required conscious effort, a slight resistance on each inhale that made every breath feel deliberate. The mask becomes less noticeable after a few minutes, Marcus said, tightening the strap behind Rowan's head. Your breathing will adjust. If it does not, tell me and I will check the valve. And the eye protection, Rowan said. The tinted lenses sat on his forehead, pushed up like a visor. They were scratched and cloudy at the edges, scavenged from industrial safety equipment, but the center of each lens was clear enough. You will need them above the cloud layer, Marcus said. Direct sunlight is significantly more intense than anything you have experienced. Pull them down when I tell you to and not before. Rowan glanced at the harness anchor where it bolted to the deck. How many people have you lost on these? Marcus finished checking the cylinder bracket before he answered. 4. How? 2 cables, a mask, a harness in a wind sheet. Marcus tightened a fitting that did not need tightening. Forecast today is clean. Rowan checked his harness buckle, but the chest strap still crossed wrong, so he left it. Lena Park was already on the platform, running pre-flight checks. 200 ascents. Her hands moved without her watching them. She was older than Marcus, her gray hair cropped to a stubble. She had acknowledged Rowan's presence with a nod and nothing else. He was not the first newcomer she had carried, and her attention was on the instruments, not the passenger. Pip stood at the hangar railing, 10 meters from the launch rail, arms folded and fingers for once still. Try not to fall off, Pip said. Rowan checked the rail one more time before he answered. I will keep that in mind. I'll be watching from here the whole time, so if something interesting happens, wave, Pip said. Marcus checked the cable tension one final time. The braided steel line ran from the platform's attachment point down to the anchor system bolted into the hangar floor, and from there through a series of guide pulleys to the retraction mechanism Rowan had repaired. The cable was taut, vibrating faintly with stored energy, ready to unwind. Launch sequence, Lena said. Cable brake release on my count. 3, 2, 1. The brake released, and the spring mechanism engaged. The platform shuddered, a vibration that traveled through the deck and into Rowan's feet and up through his legs into his spine. Then the deck tilted, or the world tilted, and the platform lifted. Not fast. The ascent was controlled, the cable unwinding at a rate Lena managed through a hand-operated brake lever at the pilot station. The hangar floor dropped away and the railing where Pip stood dropped away. The top of Meridian dropped away, the city's levels telescoping below him. The rooftops and solar panels and balcony gardens shrinking into a pattern, a layout. A structure visible now as a whole rather than the sum of its corridors and stairwells. Rowan gripped the rail. His hands knew before his mind did, solid ground was leaving him. The air was open beneath the platform, 12 meters and growing, and the only thing between him and the city below was a cable attached to a mechanism he had built from a block of steel and his father's multi-tool. The mechanism would hold. He trusted it more than he trusted the air. Meridian shrank. The walls became a polygon. The farming terraces became green lines, and the cleared zone beyond the walls became a ring of pale ground that gave way to the lowland territory, faint and small and far. Then the clouds arrived, The platform rose into the base of the cloud layer and the world disappeared. Not gradually, not in stages. One breath he could see the city below. The next breath he could see nothing. The air was gray and wet and dense and close. A medium, rather than an absence, pressing against his skin and beating on the platform's surfaces and on the lenses of his eye protection. The temperature dropped as they climbed, and the moisture in the air found every gap in his clothing and settled there. His fingers on the rail were wet within seconds. The rail itself was wet. The cable above them dripped, the water running down the braided steel in thin streams that the wind peeled away into the gray. The cable vibrated. Rowan could feel it through the platform and through the rail. A high-frequency tremor that spoke of tension and load and the constant negotiation between the spring mechanism below and the atmosphere above. His mechanism working, bearing against bearing, housing holding. The tolerances he had filed by hand translating into this sustained, vibrating function 1,200 meters above the ground and climbing. Marcus called numbers to Lena from the instrument panel. Altitude, ascent rate, wind vector. Lena adjusted the brake lever in response. Small corrections that changed the platform's rate of climb by fractions. Rowan watched the cable where it entered the gray above them, and he listened. The hum changed. It was a small change. The frequency dropped a half step, and the steady tremor through the rail picked up a flutter. A quick, irregular catch in the vibration that Rowan had heard before. In his father's solar collector. The week before, a bearing failed. Load against a fault. Marcus, he said. Marcus turned from the instruments. The cable is loading unevenly. Listen at the rail. Marcus put his gloved hand on the rail. He held it there for 3 seconds, then 4. His expression did not change, and he turned to Lena. Reduce ascent rate. Quarter speed. Lena's hand was already moving on the brake lever before Marcus finished the sentence. The platform's climb slowed. The flutter and the vibration eased, then steadied. Then resolved back into the clean hum Rowan had been listening to since launch. Crosswind through the transition layer, Marcus said. It catches the cable and sets up a harmonic. We pass through it slower. The harmonic does not build. He looked at Rowan. You heard that before I read it on the gauge? I built the mechanism. I know what it sounds like when something is wrong. Marcus nodded once and turned back to the instruments. Lena did not look up, but the corner of her mouth moved. Rowan had stopped being a passenger. They climbed. The cloud thinned briefly to perhaps 10 meters of visibility, and Rowan caught a glimpse of the cable stretching upward into the gray, glistening with water, vibrating with the tension of their weight. He saw something else. To the east, a second cable, parallel to theirs, rising into the same cloud layer from a launch rail he had not been able to see from the hangar. A platform was suspended from it, smaller than theirs at this distance, 3 figures visible on its deck. Helionaut 1, Marcus said. We launched in formation. They observe a different sector. The other platform was perhaps 200 meters from theirs and slightly higher. Rowan could make out the figures, 2 standing at the rail, 1 at the pilot station. Then the cloud closed again and the second platform vanished. The ascent continued. The cloud layer was not uniform but layered, different densities at different altitudes, and the platform passed through bands of wet and dry and turbulent air in succession. Lena's hand on the brake lever moved in small, constant adjustments. Marcus's voice took on a clipped, focused quality that Rowan associated with the critical stages of precision work. Wind shear at 8.2 kilometers, Marcus said. Lateral drift within. The platform jolted. Not a sway. A jolt, sharp and lateral, as if the air itself had punched the deck sideways. Rowan's grip on the rail kept him upright. His feet left the deck for a fraction of a second and came back down hard, and the harness caught him against the chest strap and pressed the buckle into his collarbone with a pain he registered and set aside. The cable above them groaned, a deep metallic sound that was not the harmonic from earlier but something else. A load against a sudden lateral pull. "Hold," Lena said. The platform swung twice, then a third time, smaller, then settled. "Wind sheet," Marcus said. He was breathing hard through the mask. "Worse than forecast," we held. "What is it?" Lena said. Marcus and Rowan both turned to listen. The hum had changed again, not the harmonic flutter from before. A lower note now, a frequency that suggested the cable was carrying a load it had not been designed to carry at this angle. Rowan could feel it through his feet, and he knew without anyone telling him that this was the kind of sound that did not fix itself. Then a sound from the east. It was small at first, distant, muffled by the cloud. A human voice. Then another, layered over the first, sharper. Then a third sound that was not a voice. A whip crack, attenuated by distance and cloud, but unmistakable in its character. High-tension steel parting under load. "Helionaut 1, Marcus said. "Their cable, some of it." "How much?" Lena said. "I cannot see from here. Listen for the ascent count." They listened. The cloud absorbed sound and gave back nothing. And then a voice came through the gray, faint and male. Calling numbers Rowan could not parse. The voice was steady, and whoever was speaking was not panicking. The numbers continued for a long stretch and then stopped. "They lost a strand," Marcus said. He was reading something Rowan could not read, an audio code in the call pattern. "Outer strand of the braided line. The inner cable held, and they are descending controlled. And they are intact." "3 on the deck?" Lena said. A pause. Another distant call from the east, 3 short sounds, 2 long. "2 on the deck," Marcus said. His voice did not change. Rowan looked at him. "Someone went over the side?" Marcus's hands moved on the instrument panel, checking gauges Rowan did not know how to read. The harness held until the lateral jolt. "We will know who when we are back down. Right now we have our own ascent to finish." Rowan looked at the cable above them. It disappeared into the gray. Somewhere along its length the same wind had pulled on it. And somewhere along its length the steel had registered that pull and either held or did not hold. And there was no way to see which from the deck. 4 people, but Marcus had said 4 and now 5. His hands on the rail were cold, and he had not noticed when the cold had started. "Continue ascent?" Lena said. Marcus checked his gauges for a long moment. He looked at the cable above them, at the vibration pattern only he could read from the instrument readouts. "Continue, quarter speed. If the harmonic comes back, we abort and descend." Lena adjusted the brake lever, and the platform resumed its climb. Rowan kept his hand on the rail and listened to the cable. And he did not let himself think about the second platform descending through the cloud with 2 people on its deck and 1 missing harness. Marcus had told him what to do, and he did it. 100 meters higher the harmonic came back. Not the lower note. The earlier one, the flutter, the half-step drop and irregular catch he had called the first time. It built quietly under the cleaner hum. Marcus. Marcus had heard it, and he was already at the rail. He kept his gloved hand on the steel for longer this time. 8 seconds, 10, his eyes on nothing. "Lena, hold ascent." Lena's hand stopped on the brake lever. The platform held, but the harmonic did not ease. The cable kept humming the wrong note, and beneath it, the deck registered a vibration Rowan now understood. A strand somewhere above them was loaded differently than the strands beside it. Not parting yet, but loaded wrong. "Options," Lena said. "Descend at quarter speed and inspect on the ground. We lose the window. Or hold here. Give it a minute. See if it stabilizes. Or continue. Or continue. The cloud surface is 200 meters. If we break through, we can see the cable from above. We will know what we are riding. Lena waited, looking at Marcus, while Marcus looked at the cable. Continue, Marcus said. Quarter speed. We look at it from the top. The platform climbed. Rowan watched the cable enter the gray and tried not to think about the steel inside the cloud, about how many strands were carrying loads meant for 12, about his repair work below holding the geometry of the whole system together. The cloud thinned. The density dropped. The moisture on his skin began to evaporate rather than accumulate. And the air through his mask tasted different, drier, cleaner. The grayness lost its uniformity and developed gradations, lighter above, darker below, the distinction sharpening with each meter of altitude. Marcus looked up. Lenses down. Rowan pulled the eye protection into place. Through the tinted lenses, the brightening gray became more tolerable, the gradations still visible but gentled. The gray became white, and the white became bright. The bright became something his eyes had nothing to compare it to. A growing intensity that filled his visual field and kept growing, each meter of altitude adding luminance with no apparent upper limit. Lena reduced the ascent rate, and Marcus checked his instruments. The altimeter read 11.4 kilometers, then 11.6, then 11.8. Rowan could feel the warmth now on his hands and on his face, above the mask seal. Warmth from above, not the diffuse ambient warmth of a good light window, but a directional heat, coming from a specific point in the brightening sky, growing stronger as the cloud thinned. The cloud thinned to wisps. The wisps pulled apart like wet cloth tearing. Through the gaps, color, not gray, not white. Blue. The helionaut broke through the top of the cloud layer and rose into open sky. The sound changed first. The constant wet rush of air through cloud, the dripping, the muffled quality of every noise. All of it fell away, replaced by a clarity that made each sound distinct and separate. The cable's hum, still wrong, the harmonics still there but quieter without the cloud to amplify it. The creak of the harness webbing and Marcus's breathing through his mask. And beneath everything, a vast open quiet that was not silence but the acoustic signature of unobstructed sky. Then the light hit the platform. The aluminum frame, which had been gray and wet and dull for the entire ascent, caught the unfiltered sun and flared. The metal blazed with a brightness Rowan had never seen in any surface, a sharp white gold that reflected off the deck panels and the cable attachments and the instrument housings and turned the entire platform into something luminous. He had worked this aluminum for days without knowing it could look like this. Rowan saw the sun. Not a light window. Not a filtered glow through 12 kilometers of atmospheric particulate. The sun, a point of light so bright that even through his tinted lenses it commanded his vision, demanded his attention, burned at the center of a sky that was not gray, was not dim, was not the permanent overcast. Rowan could not speak. He stood on the platform, his hands on the rail, his mask feeding him processed air, his eyes processing a visual field that exceeded the capacity of every descriptive word he had ever read. The blue was deeper than any illustration in any book. The light was stronger than any light window, any lamp, any glow he had ever seen. The warmth on his face was direct and immediate and almost painful. Then Marcus said, "There it is." Rowan turned. Marcus was not looking at the sky. He was looking up the cable, where it left the platform and rose into open air toward the anchor point above. The braided line glinted in the unfiltered sun, every strand visible, every twist clean. Except in one place, 40 meters above the deck, a single strand had pulled free of the braid and curled outward. A thin, bright wire catching the light. Around it, 2 more strands ran lighter than the others, the tension on them visible as a slight separation from the main weave. 3 strands compromised, Marcus said. His voice was quiet. 1 parted, 2 stressed. Out of how many? Rowan said. 12. We are riding on 9. Lena left the pilot station and crossed to the rail. She looked at the cable for a long time. Descent rating on 9 strands? Within tolerance, as long as we do not take another lateral pull. And if we do? Marcus did not answer. The cloud's surface below stretched to every horizon, a gray and white sea, textured and rolling. Somewhere in that sea, a second platform was descending through the gray with 2 people standing where there should have been 3. Rowan could not see it. The cloud sealed the surface from up here as completely as it sealed the sky from down there. Marcus turned from the cable. His face, in the unfiltered light, was older than it had looked in the hangar, the lines around his eyes deep and dark in the directional sun. He did not lower his lenses. "Who was it?" Rowan said. "I do not know yet." "You have a guess." Davin. He was a young pilot on his second ascent, and he was at the rail. Rowan said nothing. He held the rail with hands that felt the cold of the cable and the heat of the sun. And he watched the gray sea below them where Davin had fallen into the cloud, and through it and back down into the world that had killed almost everyone 70 years ago and was still killing them now. Lena checked the chronograph at the pilot station. Above cloud window opens now. We have 90 minutes, then we descend on 9 strands. Marcus turned from the rail. He pulled a notebook and a pencil from a pocket inside his coat, opened to a clean page, and looked at Rowan. "You are here to see. Tell me what you see, and I will write." Rowan looked at the sky.
Chapter Guild, Stories for Your Mind.